What's up, everyone? Open-minded neutral here, and if you're a fan of professional wrestling like myself, you've probably heard this before. WWE was a monopoly for 18 years, and there was no real alternative until AEW. But is that really the truth? In today's video, I'll be diving into this misconception, breaking down the facts, and exploring the other promotions that were around long before AEW even existed. And hey, before I get started, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications so you don't miss out on any future content. And feel free to use the comment section to talk about the topic of this video, and more importantly, my channel as a whole. I encourage it. I welcome all criticism, feedback, and anything else that can help me improve my videos, grow as a YouTube content creator. So let's begin. First, let's break down what a monopoly really means. A monopoly is when a company has exclusive control over a product or service, leaving consumers with no alternatives. And while WWE certainly had a stronghold on mainstream professional wrestling, we need to ask ourselves, was they really the only option for wrestling fans? So, where did this whole WWE monopoly narrative come from? Well, after WCW and ECW folded in 2001, a lot of fans felt like they was the only game in town. And to be fair, WWE did dominate the mainstream wrestling scene for years after buying out its main competitors. But was it really a monopoly? It's easy to see why people thought the World Wrestling Entertainment was a monopoly. For nearly 2 decades, they were the biggest, most visible wrestling company in the world. Raw and SmackDown were the go-to shows for wrestling fans. But the truth is, WWE never really had a monopoly in the literal sense. They wasn't operating in a vacuum. Independent promotions, international companies, and even televised alternatives were available throughout that 18-year stretch. A monopoly means no competition, and as we'll see, that wasn't the case. So if WWE wasn't a true monopoly, what other options were there for wrestling fans?
Introducing first to my right, the challenger, from Chicago, Illinois, weighing 227 pounds, CM
Let's talk about the rise of independent wrestling, which kept the sport alive for die-hard fans during this so-called monopoly era. Promotions like Ring of Honor, Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, Combat Zone Wrestling, and others played a massive role in giving fans an alternative to WWE. These companies focused on athleticism, technical wrestling, and storytelling that catered to the hardcore fans who wanted something different. ROH was founded in 2002, right after WWE absorbed WCW and ECW. While ROH wasn't on the same level as WWE in terms of production value or mainstream reach, it offered something WWE didn't. Pure technical wrestling, ROH in particular, helped launch the careers of many future WWE and AEW stars, like Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, and Samoa Joe. ROH didn't just survive, it thrived in the independent scene. This promotion was where some of the biggest names in wrestling today got their start, proving that WWE wasn't the only destination for talent or fans. Even though indie wrestling didn't have the big budgets and TV deals that WWE had, it was thriving in its own niche, and hardcore fans knew where to find it. In fact, indie wrestling was where some of the best wrestling in the world was happening.
To nose! My God, it's Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle! Listen to this girl! Oh my God, Kurt Angle just headbutted Samoa Joe! Olympic slam! Olympic slam by Angle on Samoa Joe! Man, everybody's going crazy! He just absolutely set it up as he slammed it with the headbutt, and he's got
While ROH and international promotions offered alternatives, there was one company that really positioned itself as a challenger to WWE in the 2000s, TNA Wrestling. TNA debuted in 2002. The company was originally called NWA, Total Non-Stop Action, NWA TNA, and was affiliated with the National Wrestling Alliance, NWA. The NWA was dropped from the name in 2004. The first TNA show was held on June 19, 2002, in Huntsville, Alabama. The main event was a 20-man gauntlet for the gold match, where Ken Shamrock defeated Malice to become the first TNA-era NWA World Heavyweight Champion. TNA used the NWA World Heavyweight and Tag Team Championships until 2007, when they created their own championships. Brought in major talent like Jeff Jarrett, AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, and the alpha male Monty Brown. TNA offered something WWE didn't: innovative matches, a stacked X division, and its infamous six-sided ring. TNA was broadcast on Spike TV and had pay-per-views that drew significant attention. The company wasn't afraid to do things differently, and that's why it appealed to fans who were tired of WWE's product. At its peak, TNA attracted top stars like Kurt Angle, Sting, and Jeff Hardy, offering fans another major promotion to follow. They weren't WWE, but they were a real alternative. While TNA didn't quite reach the same heights as WWE, it was a legitimate alternative for fans who were tired of WWE's product. In fact, during the 2000s, there was a time when TNA was considered WWE's biggest rival. Now, for some strange and odd reason, some die-hard wrestling fans like to forget a lot of the important things TNA did for the business, including TNA Impact, going live on Monday nights head-to-head with Raw, but because they didn't beat them in the ratings, I guess some people still say they didn't count. TNA had weekly TV deals, PPVs, and an online presence, so to say WWE was the only option for 18 years ignores how TNA gave fans another choice during that time. Even though TNA had its ups and downs, it's impossible to deny that it was a viable alternative for many years.
Hey, Red Dragon! You freaking posers. Which one of you dweebs is going to be the first one to put over CM Punk in his first UFC fight?
We got ice back. We're going back for
Las
those
Vegas?
ROH ones.
They're coming home with us, Dad.
Yes!
Now, let's not forget about the international wrestling scene. While WWE dominated North America, companies like New Japan Pro Wrestling, NJPW, AA, and CMLL were thriving overseas, and they became increasingly accessible to fans in the US during WWE's so-called monopoly era. NJPW in particular had a huge resurgence in the 2010s, putting on some of the best matches of the decade with stars like Tanahashi, Okada, and Omega. Their annual event, Wrestle Kingdom, became a must-watch for hardcore wrestling fans around the world. Thanks to streaming services like NJPW World, more and more fans were able to follow the Japanese scene, proving that WWE wasn't the only option. And let's not forget Mexican promotions like AAA and CMLL, which continued to draw massive crowds in Latin America. These promotions brought a different style of wrestling, lucha libre, and had a passionate fan base, especially for those looking for something beyond WWE's mainstream product.
Hello, my believers. This is Dario Cueto, the owner and promoter of Lucha Underground.
That's Dario Cueto! We haven't seen Dario Cueto this year at the Temple!
I missed you. And of course you miss me too.
Lucha Underground was a unique wrestling promotion that set itself apart from other wrestling companies with its innovative blend of professional wrestling, cinematic storytelling, and character-driven drama. Launched in 2014, it ran for 4 seasons, gaining a passionate fan base and leaving a lasting impact on the industry. Here are some key elements that made Lucha Underground different from other wrestling companies. Cinematic presentation. One of the most distinctive aspects of Lucha Underground was its cinematic production style. It was shot more like a TV series or a movie, using high-quality cameras, dramatic lighting, and vibrant colors. The and edited scenes to enhance storytelling. Backstage segments were filmed like mini-movies, with special effects and stylized editing, making the show feel like a mix of wrestling and action drama. Story-driven narratives. The show focused heavily on long-term storytelling and character arcs. Unlike most wrestling promotions, where matches are the primary focus, Lucha Underground emphasized storytelling as much as in-ring action. Characters had complex backstories and motivations, often rooted in mythology, supernatural elements, and Mexican lucha libre culture. Underground, gritty atmosphere. The setting for Lucha Underground was the Temple, a warehouse-like arena that contributed to the gritty underground feel of the promotion. This made it feel more like an underground fight club rather than a traditional wrestling promotion, adding to the show's edgy vibe. Lucha Libre influenced Lucha Underground heavily incorporated Lucha Libre, a style of professional wrestling originating in Mexico that emphasizes high-flying maneuvers, fast-paced action, and masked wrestlers. The show featured a mix of Lucha Libre stars like Rey Mysterio, Prince Puma, Ricochet, and Pentagon Jr., as well as non-lucha wrestlers who adapted to the style, creating a unique blend of high-energy, acrobatic matches. Supernatural and mythological themes. Lucha Underground introduced supernatural elements that aren't common in mainstream wrestling. Characters had mythological or mystical powers, and there were storylines involving ancient Aztec traditions, immortality, and otherworldly beings. This added an extra layer of fantasy to the show, allowing for more creative freedom with characters and storylines. Intergender wrestling. Lucha Underground embraced intergender wrestling, where men and women competed against each other. Unlike most promotions that avoid this, Lucha Underground made it a staple of their programming, featuring women like Sexy Star and Ivelisse fighting male wrestlers in serious, competitive matches. Unique championship titles. Lucha Underground introduced its own distinct titles, such as the Lucha Underground Championship, the Gift of the Gods Championship, and the Trios Championship, a three-person tag team title. The Gift of the Gods title was particularly unique, as it functioned similarly to WWE's Money in the Bank briefcase, allowing the holder to cash in for a shot at the main title, but with the twist of needing to collect ancient Aztec medallions to compete for it. Short, self-contained seasons. Unlike WWE or other promotions that run year-round, Lucha Underground had defined seasons, more akin to a television series. Each season told a cohesive story, with cliffhangers and resolutions, allowing viewers to follow along with a more structured narrative. Emphasis on character development. Characters in Lucha Underground weren't just wrestlers, but fully fleshed-out personalities with deep storylines. Wrestlers like Mil Muertes, a near-immortal character with a dark backstory, and Prince Puma, a masked hero, were given time to develop both inside and outside the ring. This emphasis on character development set it apart from companies that focus more on match quality. The unique use of violence. Lucha Underground was known for its violent and brutal matches. The show often featured death matches and extreme bouts with high-risk spots, blood, and hardcore elements that added to the underground fight club feel. These matches, combined with the storytelling, made Lucha Underground a more mature product compared to the PG-rated content of other promotions. Lucha Underground stood out due to its cinematic approach, mythological and supernatural storytelling, gritty underground aesthetic, and the mix of Lucha Libre with intergender wrestling. It offered an alternative to traditional wrestling promotions by merging wrestling with elements of a TV drama, giving fans a product that felt fresh, bold, and highly imaginative. Of course, I can't talk about alternatives without mentioning All Elite Wrestling. When AEW launched in 2019, it quickly became a major player in the wrestling world. with some calling it the first true competitor to WWE since WCW. But AEW didn't pop up out of nowhere. It came from the legacy of everything I talked about today. AEW built on the foundations laid by indie promotions, TNA, and even NJPW. Its founders, Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega, were all stars who cut their teeth in these alternative promotions before AEW became a reality. AEW had the benefit of timing, financial backing, and a deep talent pool that had been cultivated outside of WWE for nearly 2 decades. While they have undoubtedly changed the landscape of wrestling, we can't ignore that the alternatives were there all along. AEW just brought them to a bigger stage and introduced them to a wider audience. But while AEW is an exciting new era for pro wrestling, let's be clear, WWE wasn't the only option before AEW. Promotions like ROH, TNA, NJPW, and the entire indie scene had been providing alternatives for years. AEW didn't create competition. It amplified the competition that was already there. So, was WWE really a monopoly for 18 years? Not even close. While they dominated the mainstream, wrestling fans always had options, whether it was through indie promotions, TNA, or international companies like NJPW. AEW's arrival just made these alternatives more visible to the casual fan, but the truth is, they've been there all along. So next time you hear someone say WWE was the only option, you'll know better. Wrestling has always had alternatives for those who were willing to seek them out. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this breakdown of wrestling's so-called monopoly. Make sure to drop a comment below. Let me know what your favorite non-WWE promotion was during those years. And as always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to stay updated. So until next time, and like always, stay safe and stay open-minded.